So welcome everyone. We're so excited to see everyone here and really excited for these final presentations. This is track I, so check the all hands Slack if you are in the wrong track and are meeting to go somewhere else. This is the one for enabling work and supporting livelihoods. Within communities that survive on daily wages, how are people able, can you guys see the drawing? How do we prevent this? Okay, Quadri, if you don't mind, could you look into the Slack and see if there's a way to change that? I'll continue.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay, so given that such communities do not have robust social protections and run the risk of low access to food and basic amenities, how can we enable people to safely maintain parts of commerce essential to their survival? And how do we address the formal sector? So the criteria that our 5 judges will be using are around impact, innovation, implementation, and presentation. I think you were shared all of these beforehand, so just these are the things that they will be keeping in mind during, as they watch your presentations, and then during the deliberation period. So before we move into logistics, I wanted to introduce our 5 amazing judges. If we could just start with Anita and move left to right and just give a brief introduction about who you are and yourself.
Perfect. Sure, I can go first. So that's actually my last position. So I used to be the policy director for rural development and inclusive growth at the One campaign. But right now I am a private sector development specialist at the World Bank, focusing mostly on innovation ecosystems and value chain improvements, mostly in the ECA region. So Europe and Central Asia, Georgia, Romania being my 2 countries. But prior to this, I worked for 6 years on Africa, mostly focused on Nigeria, Mali, and Senegal. So great to be here, and I look forward to the presentation.
Great, thank you. Dan?
Yeah, my name is Dan Leclerc. I'm the CEO of the Global Business School Network. We work with leading business schools worldwide to improve access to management education for emerging economies.
Hi everyone, I'm Ariana Constant. I'm the director at the Clinton Development Initiative, which is an initiative at the Clinton Foundation. We work in Malawi, Rwanda, and Tanzania, connecting farming communities to business opportunities in the agriculture sector. And I'm really excited to hear the presentations as well.
Hi everyone, I'm Adel Boussaili. I'm a scholar in residence with MIT Legadam Center, and I'm also a founder of a company called The Flock in Egypt. I've been working with entrepreneurs for around 15 years now. I was an entrepreneur myself and then founded an incubator, headed a couple of government incubators, and I've been a very active angel investor for the last 8 years. Looking forward to a great pitch tonight. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Megan. Good to see you, Emily. I am a Sloan class of 2018 graduate, and I am the current CEO at a company called Oze. We're based in Ghana, and we help small business owners keep better financial records and then use that data to make good decisions and access capital, which we found is especially important right now. I also run an accelerator and incubator program in Francophone Africa called Dare to Innovate that's focused on helping unemployed youth launch social enterprises. And I'm excited to be here.
Great, thank you everyone. Very excited to have all of you on our judging team. So just an overview of some logistics. These presentations are being recorded. 1 member of each team will present, but other team members can pitch in during the Q&A. There will be 3 minutes of presentation followed by 2 minutes of Q&A from the judges. We've randomized the order that you're presenting in for fairness. So we'll tell you when you're up next, so you'll have 5 minutes to prepare. So we'll basically say, you know, this team is presenting, but then up next we have Team B. If you're presenting for your team, please raise your hand and then I will tell you when to unmute. When it's your turn to present, we'll unmute you. You can turn your video on if you'd like, and I will be the one to flip slides for you. Just make sure that you can keep me in your camera screen because I'll be holding up a 1 minute, then a 30-second slide sheet. So keep me in your view. And then the judges will be picking 3 winners per track. If you have questions at this time, please direct them into the chat and then Quadri can help answer them. And here's just a reminder of how it will look. You should remember from the pitch practice sessions, there's the raise hand. I can manually unmute you or you can unmute yourself. 3 minutes for presentation and then 2 minutes for Q&A. Great, so I know this first team, GGW for COVID, did not have 5 minutes to present, so I'll let you get started right now, get yourself set up and acclimated. In the meantime, let me just check the chat. Great. Ricardo, are you, if it's you that's presenting, are you here and ready? Can you please raise your blue hand? Oh, okay. Can't raise hand. Are other people having trouble raising their blue hand? Okay, it looks like most people can. All right, you can go ahead and lower them. If your team gets called on and you're having trouble raising your hand, just go ahead and chat me. I will unmute Ricardo. Okay.
Okay, should I share my screen?
No, I'm controlling all the screen, so you'll have to tell me next slide. So just next when you want me to move to the next slide.
Perfect, okay. So, okay, hello everyone. So this is the Great Green Wall for COVID team. We want to combat COVID by planting trees and while promoting sustainable food production. Next. The next slide. The lockdown due to the COVID pandemic. No, previous slide. Okay. The lockdown due to the COVID pandemic will cause plenty of people to temporarily lose their job. As it happened in other places of the world, this could generate a major economic crisis. And in places where the population struggles every day to get food, such as sub-Saharan Africa, this can easily generate a double catastrophe. So how can we avoid this outcome? The project Great Green Wall is taking action on Africa since 2010. It aims to build a barrier of trees from Senegal to Djibouti to combat desertification. This is a global project taking funds from many different entities, but it's not very well known. And for a long time, it didn't receive the necessary importance. Next slide. So why are we proposing this project to enable sustainable livelihoods during COVID diffusion? Can it be helpful to flatten the curve? To answer these questions, we highlighted 3 different key points. First, transport and accommodation. We want people who lost their job to reach the sites where the GGW is active. The transport and accommodation are granted by the project itself, thanks to strict collaboration between the UN and each partner state. Second, financial support. To every person who joins the Great Green Wall, the minimum wage of the state is guaranteed, meaning that temporarily unemployed people can have another form of income during the pandemic. And of course, security. We can't risk the health of the workers. Social distances are guaranteed by the dimension of the lands, and people who work in the project are normally at low risk of COVID complications. Besides, now it's planting period, so additional workers are actually needed. Next slide. By implementing the GGW for COVID plan, the number of workers can increase from 8,000, the current number of workers, up to 50,000. By studying the data, we can see that the epidemiological curve doesn't change, while on the other hand, the economy will benefit from $46 million US, and the restored area will increase by 6,000 kilometers squares per year, with a benefit of around 500,000 tons of CO2 absorbed per year. Next slide. During this hackathon, we managed to contact the coordinator of the Great Green Wall at the African Union, Mr. Elvis Paul Tangent, who enthusiastically confirmed the sustainability and affordability of our project. Also, he added they are already studying a plan to provide safe working conditions during this period. In fact, the military force can provide safe conditions also in temporary livings. Besides, okay, so next slide. To conclude, boosting the Great Green Wall in this particular period can have a double impact. It would help people who lost their jobs to have a form of income, and it would help preserving the environment and livelihood in the long term future of Africa, also in post-COVID. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Ricardo, and GG4 for COVID. Judges, we have 2 minutes.
Thanks, Ricardo, for that great presentation. I just have one question. So you mentioned that this could potentially increase incomes or income by $46.4 million. Can you just explain where that increase in income is coming from?
Sure. So we hypothesized an increasing of the number of workers to around 40,000 to 50,000 workers, with each person will be paid the minimum wage salary. So we just simply multiplied the number of workers with the salary. Also, I know that this project is financed from many different entities, and one of these is also the World Bank. So, and the UN.
The payments would come from these development agencies. I guess that's my clarification question. It's not like we're selling anything. It's okay.
Yes.
I think we have time for one more question.
My question, it seems like this is an ongoing project for over a decade. And so I was just wondering what it was that your team was suggesting on how to change it, or what you were working on during this hackathon, or is it just that you were trying to highlight that this is something that's going on that could be good for COVID response?
So we actually, yes, we want to boost this project. So we think there's place for improving in many things, but one of the main things is to enhance the visibility of this project and improve also this vision among the population, and while increasing the number of workers, and it can be also sociably useful in such a way. Okay.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Sebenza, and coming up after that is Decentralized Essentials.
Is the team number for the previous team?
Pardon?
What was the team number for the last?
18, 018. 18.
That's for the new one. What was the previous one?
The new one is 002, was 002.
002, all right, thanks.
Yeah. Okay, Sebenza, I don't see you on, who's presenting for Sebenza? Great. Okay. Welcome, Joanna, and you're up.
Perfect. Hi, you guys. Okay, we can get started anytime.
Ready.
Perfect. Hi, we're Team Sebenza, which is a Zulu word for work. Next slide, please. In the past 48 hours, we've been working together on a solution we're really excited to tell you about. Next slide. Over 85% of Africa is employed in the informal sector, lacking social protection. McKinsey estimated that over 100 million jobs in the informal sector are considered vulnerable as a result of COVID, which is 5 times higher than the formal sector jobs. Next slide, please. At the same time, some sectors are seeing a boost in demand, for example, in healthcare, including PPE manufacturing. And across the continent, we have real-life cases of businesses rushing to meet this demand. For example, our team member, Sufarel in Addis Ababa, started with 52 people making PPE and have expanded 4 times now to 232 people in just 4 weeks. Next slide, please. Sebenza is a platform that matches the unemployed informal workers to these newly created job opportunities through a USSD platform, meaning anyone with a phone and a SIM card can benefit without expensive data. An employer will specify requirements into our database using a mobile or web-based platform. Then, when a job seeker enters her skill sets through USSD that match with what the employer needs, she will get an SMS with instructions to connect with the employer. Next slide, please. We will start with a small pilot in Ethiopia to gain traction for 2 main reasons. 1, government support. The Ethiopian government has established a job creation commission just in March this year with an exclusive work stream to incentivize companies to repurpose their production towards COVID-19 medical equipment. Number 2, digitally connected population. Ethiopia has over 40 million people with phones, creating a sizable market for the pilot. We plan to partner with companies that we know are hiring, such as DeliverAddis, and also partner with well-regarded companies that have laid people off, such as the tourism industry. This way, we can ensure the quality of the workers as they'll be vetted by their previous employer, which is a huge barrier to hiring in the informal sector. Next slide, please. If the pilot succeeds, we expect it to start a virtuous cycle as more companies hire through Sebenza. Eventually, we want to partner with the telcos, government, and other job searching platforms shortlist to facilitate communication with a larger segment of the informal workers. With Sebenza, in the short term, we hope to create a safety net by generating income and earning opportunities for informal workers, and in the long term, contribute to formalizing the informal economy so that when a disaster strikes again, they'll be better protected. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Joanna. So my question is, what are the main reasons there's an informal sector in Ethiopia?
The informal sector exists all across Africa. I believe a statistics that I remember is something around, 85% of Africa's workforce in general is informal, and that's the same in Ethiopia. We've chosen Ethiopia as a pilot ground because of strong government support, as well as the digitally connected population, as well as the fact that one of our team member is currently in there, and he's started a similar operation.
So let me rephrase the question. I'm asking, why does it exist in Ethiopia? I mean, what are the reasons of the informal sector? I mean, sometimes it's tax invasion, it's lack of jobs. What is the biggest reason there is an informal sector in Ethiopia? That's my question.
Right. Usually there's not enough formal jobs. That's one reason. And another reason is that by nature, a lot of these informal work is unstructured. For example, if you drive a motorcycle taxi, then you don't have a quote unquote employer to report to. So, and agriculture is also a good example, which hires a lot of the workforce in Ethiopia. So I think there's many reasons for that.
So another quick question from my end. So this assumes that the major problem, maybe not one of the major problems in the employment space, is that there is the failure, there are jobs that exist and they just are not finding the right people. Did you guys find any numbers to kind of validate that assumption? Because especially given COVID-19, the problem might not be existing jobs and a lack of people, but it might actually be the opposite, where there are no jobs. So is there evidence to show that this is the problem?
We do recognize that, of course, the supply of jobs is going to be outweighed by the demand for jobs, for sure. And we recognize that we cannot help every informal worker who's lost his or her job during this time. We do know that there's going to be a huge demand for PPE, particularly in Africa, and we have some data in the demand slide there. And also we've Sufaral, who's our team member in Ethiopia currently, has spoken with a couple of companies, for example, DeliverAddis, which is a retail delivery service, who is actually hiring. So we're combining not only the macro factors that going to be some demand in certain sectors, as well as some anecdotal conversations to draw that conclusion.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
So just a reminder to the judges to be filling out the forms in real time. So up next, we have Team 52 Decentralized Essentials. And coming up after that, if Team 12 Harufu Health can be ready to go and raise your blue hand so we know who is presenting. Eleanor, you are unmuted.
Thanks. Can you go to the next slide, please? Tell me when to start.
You can start now. Maybe speak a little bit closer to the microphone.
Okay. When governments across Africa are making the decision to lock down and encourage social distancing to flatten the curve on the spread of COVID-19, it's increasingly difficult for economically vulnerable populations to maintain livelihoods under these conditions. Next slide. With the communal nature of life across most African populations, large markets being a staple in communities to shop for basics, and also serving as a place of employment, with informal sector jobs contributing to over 85% of employment across the continent. Completely shutting down these economic pillars would be catastrophic. So the dilemma of locking down is essentially between people dying of hunger or dying of COVID-19. Next slide, please. Oh, sorry. Back one. The African Union has even projected a loss of about 20 million jobs, and 17 million to 50 million people would be affected and be faced with food insecurity in West Africa in this situation. Next slide, please. Decentralized Essentials will be making continued access to essential goods easier and safer by creating satellite markets with proper sanitation coupled with delivery services to decongest markets and create employment. Next slide. Our team has designed a system for taking large markets that are hotspots for overcrowding and spread of the virus and fragmenting them into multiple smaller markets using existing and repurposing other spaces. Traders would register with local authorities that would then develop a schedule for these markets and offer delivery services, thereby creating more jobs and opportunities for vendors to get their goods to consumers. All this data on market days, food availability, prices, and compliance would be shared via USSD, SMS, IVR, and traditional and social media. The fact that it doesn't require heavy infrastructure or capital investment and that mobile phones are widely available makes it scalable to other African countries. Next slide. The system would be piloted in Sierra Leone, which already has USSD and SMS systems in place to share public information. So the tech infrastructure already exists, and there's political will and community ownership. The satellite and mobile market model leverages existing systems and social networks, supplementing them with user-friendly, low-cost tech. So, for example, next slide, please. Someone who wants to buy goods can send an SMS to get a list of satellite markets near them, what day they're available, and what delivery services are available. COVID-19 is here for a while. In the meantime, we still need to eat and make money safely. So Decentralized Essentials is helping people adjust to this new normal.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Eleanor. It seems like what you have in mind is tightly coupled with the government giving permits and selecting good locations. How do you think about going about that? Do you think the government is going to be quick to action? Because it hasn't been in the past years, right?
So as we mentioned, partnerships would be not only with central government, but most importantly, local government, as they are usually the ones who regulate like markets at a community or town or village level. And so usually those local governments are in touch with and connected with market chairpersons. So being able to have vendors register with local governments is actually a lot easier than it would with a central government system, and hence why this is a decentralized system of providing essential services.
So I have a follow-on question. Oh, sorry, was someone else going to go? Okay. Go first. You can go first.
Oh, thanks. How do you propose to regulate the flow of people that want to visit the markets?
Great question. So by scheduling market days, they would be, and by scheduling vendors for market days, you would then have less vendors, but vendors who are providing all the possible essential goods that would be needed on a particular each market day, and then you would be able to have less vendors at a market at a time, because schedule maybe for one particular market day. To incentivize vendors from not using the market days and utilizing we would want to incentivize them to use the delivery service, which means that they could get their goods to consumers more frequently than only maybe one day a week if they use the schedule service at the physical market.
So I have a quick question. And maybe it's a clarification question because I had a couple of things. So there's the scheduling to ensure that there are less vendors at different times or on different days, which creates a problem of informing the buyers, right? Then there is the other challenge or the other methodology of kind of disseminating or disaggregating the points of sale, which to me is also a greater problem because we already have problems with market infrastructure, right? And how do you then move people to alternative infrastructures? So I guess my question is those two things. Like, so on the first one on scheduling, how do you ensure that you're communicating that with the end user? And then with the second one on markets, how do you get that market infrastructure? And then the third one, which you didn't talk as much about, which is also, I think, another idea was around utilization of technologies to actually do these sales. But we find in Africa that people are not using this technology as much. So how do you intend also cascading and ensuring utilization of the third stream?
And Eleanor, if you could keep your answers very brief.
Sure. So the main markets would remain open spaces, but the key is that each vendor's list of products is sent via is available via USSD and SMS. And because of the availability of these technologies and user friendliness, it's easy for end users to be able to know what products are being offered on what days, on which market days. In terms of the utilization of technology to do sales, the focus would not at this time be on like mobile money payments would not be on mobile money payments. That is an option for further scaling up, but delivery persons would be able to pay either in cash or in kind when a delivery is made, or at the market, they would be able to make payments. And then on your second question about the market.
Sorry to cut you off, but we actually don't have time. So maybe after you guys can touch base. Thanks. Okay, up next, we have Team 12, Harufu Health. And after that, please be ready and raise your blue hand if you're presenting. Team 35, Honest Shuttle. Ajinta, you are unmuted.
Thank you. Hello and welcome everyone. The COVID-19 pandemic has devastated countries across the globe. We focus on Kenya, our beachhead market in East Africa. Before COVID even, 39% of deaths in Kenya were from infectious diseases. Yet they only have 130 ICU beds for 53 million people. The COVID-19 pandemic has destroyed the Kenyan economy with 81% earnings loss in the informal work sector. The agricultural industry is a mainstay of the Kenyan economy. We know 50% of the harvested fruit goes to waste in Kenya, however. Next slide, please. So let me introduce you to Harufu Health, a way to improve public health infrastructure and increase health equity, a way to enhance COVID-19 viral screening, a way to improve economic equity by turning agricultural waste to sustainable wealth. Next slide, please. So our innovation is a biometric smell-based screening test. In COVID-19, 30 to 67% of cases have been reported with anosmia. That is the complete loss of smell. Studies have shown 98% of people deemed asymptomatic or mild have reduced sense of smell. We create a biometric medical device by repurposing tropical fruit waste where subtle changes in smell can be detected. Adding the test to a comprehensive digital screening test powered with machine learning enables us to rapidly scale population-wide surveillance. With 80% of Kenyans owning either a basic phone or a smartphone, we can deploy the advanced tests through phones and the basic olfactory test kit stick to everyone else. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Thank you. In terms of market opportunity, our biometric tests will provide population-wide screening and socioeconomic elevation through job creation. With 30% market penetration for our screening test, our estimated market opportunity is $160 million. Next slide, please. We're developing a robust circular economy platform by servicing informal workers and formal workers. With the platform, farmers' waste can create additional income as well as stimulate job creation in manufacturing, health testing, supply chain and distribution channels to create shelf-stable byproducts that aid in pandemic response and beyond. Next slide, please. We can reuse waste byproducts towards manufacturing fertilizers, hand sanitizers, and refined essential oils. Kenya's tropical waste valorization can help establish Harufu in the billion-dollar global essential oils market. Next slide, please. Let me introduce our core team with diverse skill sets and intercontinental experience in researching, developing, and implementing health solutions. I'm Dr. Ajintha Pathmanathan. I'm a visiting scholar at Stanford University School of Medicine, Otolaryngology Department. Aryan is a molecular biologist and CEO at Alaseda Health. Indrayud is a systems engineer at MIT School of Engineering and Sloan School of Management. Ria is a public health researcher with Harvard Chan's India Research Center. Krishnenda is a data scientist with 9 years experience in supply chain and health. And Aaron is an MD PhD candidate at Emory University School of Medicine and is also CSO, Chief Scientific Officer at Alaseda Health. So next slide, please. So thank you, everyone. And I invite Aaron and Aryan to join our Q&A.
So for the biometric testing, it's testing a loss of a sense of smell. But if I understand correctly, not everybody loses their sense of smell. So what do you do about the people who might feel like they passed your test and therefore they're safe going out and coming in contact with lots of different people?
So the principle behind a test is essentially to offer another dimension that we could look at people who are contracting COVID-19. So the general principle is that we wouldn't just use this test alone as like a definitive test. It would kind of work alongside other kind of symptoms. And so that's kind of like the purpose of the symptom tracking as well. But we also believe that the current way that people look at loss of smell is complete loss of smell. And so we want to establish this test as a way to essentially measure quantitatively small changes in smell that might be contracted early on within the actual COVID-19 itself.
If I may just add, we are also providing a comprehensive digital screening test via mobile phones.
Time for one more question, if anyone has one. No? Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So moving on, we have team 35 of Honest Shuttle. And coming up, please, team 45 of Digital Workhub Africa, be ready. And you should be unmuted.
Yes, hi. My name is Martin Tumsime, and I'm representing Honest Shuttle. Next. Yeah, so currently the situation in Zimbabwe is that a lot of omnibuses or public commuter services have been banned from actually transporting passengers. And this has affected a number of informal sector players, for example, the food vendors, who are no longer being able to sell items to customers since most of them are grounded in their homes and they're scared to move out. Next. Yeah, so 85% of all jobs in Zimbabwe are informal, and over 15,000 commuters omnibuses are just being lying idle and doing nothing right now since they can't transport passengers. Next. Next, please. Yeah, so the current situation, to give context, is there's Akiki, a food vendor in Harare, who sells vegetables and currently can't access customers. Then there is Simba, who is a commuter driver and currently is not in position to actually work or transport passengers because of the ban. And there is Rafael, who is at home and is not in position to actually go out and buy since they are scared. Next. So our solution is trying to see how we can pivot the public transport into actually delivering essential goods such as food and grocery. Next. So we're developing a mobile app that will allow us to onboard vendors onto the app, and people can request for services from the vendors. Then these drivers can actually deliver these commodities to these homes. Next. So basically someone requests, then we match them to an omnibus collector who comes and picks it up and drops it to the home. Next. So our impact is, since people will be paying cashless using mobile money services, we can be able to decongest markets, prevent vendors from exposure from many customers, and also improve these people to actually get customers they can serve and make money during this period of a lockdown. And also be able to facilitate a small pivoting of the public sector into delivery of gross items. Next. Yeah, so our business model is basically commission-based, so we commission every delivery. Next. We have a team, computer scientists, Jeremy, Martin, and I. We have a background in computer science, whereas Boy is from Zimbabwe, Harare, and is a mechanical engineer major in Zimbabwe. So with such a team, we believe we can be able to implement this. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. I mean, I'll ask one question, then pass it on. What happens after the COVID-19? What happens when everything opens up and those drivers go back to doing business as usual and are busy with other passengers?
Okay, yes, so basically the model is onboarding vendors onto the platform. Then we can show like the potential to these drivers that they can also make money through actually delivering goods and services.
And I've unmuted, I don't know if you wanted someone else for Q&A, but I unmuted iPhone guest as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so I would like to answer the question about post-COVID-19. What's happening in Zimbabwe right now is that the informal transport sector is being phased out. So the government has established buses. So these will be taking over from the informal public sector drivers. These were mainly the commuter omnibuses. So this can be a way for them to pivot from that line of business, because now we don't really know whether they will be ever allowed to operate even after COVID-19.
I'd like to know how you're thinking about aggregating the demand to send out deliveries, because sending out one family's groceries in a minibus is going to be too expensive. In that case, you would just use a motorcycle, right? So how are you going to aggregate demand?
Yeah, so the idea is through the route optimization algorithm we shall be using is to be able to pull for orders once they come through. And these items, actually, we're looking at hamper baskets. If items are put into boxes so they can easily be delivered to homes from a pull.
And just to add on to that as well, we considered not using an app, using WhatsApp or messaging or calling. But one of the advantages of using the app that would have been compromised if we didn't would have been location services. So being able to leverage that in a way that's easy to integrate allows us to sort of pool potential orders.
And so if I am the only one in my neighborhood that wants to order from this service, then it's still a low cost for me, and you just take a loss on the delivery.
sorry. Right. So I believe we, you know, depending on the size of the order, you know, we could assign, you know, whether it's a motorcycle for a smaller one, or try to do a bus for either longer distance orders or pooled orders to certain regions.
Great, thank you. And next up, we have Team 45 Digital Workhub Africa. Just a reminder that if you are up next to present, please raise your hand. And also similarly during Q&A, if you are presenting on behalf of your group, you can go ahead and raise your hand too. Let me just find Jerry and unmute. Okay, Jerry, you should be unmuted.
Yes, please. Can I start now?
Yes.
All right. So our solution is a data-driven microcredit for women-led enterprises. Next, please. Jerry Van Sanguzu, a statistics student at Chamboko, working together with Jeremiah, who is a digital marketing professional from Lagos, Nigeria. Next, please. Now, many people across Africa are actually employed by informal sectors such as kiosk owners, street vendors, hawkers, border cyclists, and the like. Many of these survive on daily wages, which have been greatly disrupted by the COVID-19 crisis, which has resulted in many of them having to go back to their homes and not being able to actually do the businesses which they used to do. And some of these businesses actually operate on capital, which is as little as just $2, which is just $2. And the biggest problem they've been facing, even before COVID-19, is the limited access to financial resources. And thus, with the crisis currently, it even exaggerates it more and makes it even worse and more unlikely that they will be able to get such financial resources. And they just do not have the social nets to be able to help them through this crisis. Next, please. As it so happens that the most vulnerable of these are actually women, who are largely marginalized by the financial sector and have difficulty in accessing credit. These are also known to be supporting many of their families and educating their children and taking care of the bulk of the work that is actually done in a home. And yet they are not, in the African setting, they are not easily allowed to inherit material, so they have no collateral and no sort of credit which they can take to financial institutions to help them to access credit. Next slide, please. Given the fact that many of these women, marginalized women running micro enterprises, cannot be able to access credit, so our solution is to make a platform which will be data driven, to leverage on technology and methods such as machine learning, so that we are able to collect data which is, for example, the farming practices of someone, where they are located and all that, so that we can onboard these persons and provide them cheap, reliable credit which they can actually use to finance their businesses, to help them survive throughout this crisis and even post-crisis. Next slide, please. Next. So what we are basing on is, back please. What we are basing on is leveraging on the increased mobile penetration throughout Africa to give a platform whereby we will train these people to give them good business practices and then give them affordable loans in groups which they can use for a long time. Next, please. And this product we are offering will be helping, first of all, the vulnerable women-led micro businesses to be able to survive throughout this crisis. And it has the potential to actually reduce poverty throughout Africa, as it will enable the livelihoods of people. And it will also connect lenders to the most untapped, to potential untapped customers, who are these small-scale businesses. And as like using the data we collect on all of them using our platform. Thank you, please.
Time. So judges, we can open it up for Q&A. Is there anyone else you want to invite for Q&A, Jerry?
Yes, Jerry, if he's around.
So a reminder, if you want to join for Q&A, to raise your blue hand.
Thank you for that. Can you talk to us a bit more about the lenders? I mean, what kind of lenders are we talking about? And are they not oversaturated already?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear your question very well.
My question is about the lenders. the ones who are going to finance or provide the money for you to lend, right? What kind of lenders do you have in mind, and what is happening now in terms of them already saturated in terms of their lending capacity or not?
On the lenders, the kinds of lenders I have in mind are actually organizations such as NGOs, which have an initiative to actually help create a social impact throughout the communities. What we want to do is to move through these various organizations and pitch to them our products so that on board and support us. But even on top of that, this is a product which can easily be started with the most minimal of capital, which we can easily provide even ourselves. But ideally, we want to get organizations which are already working, supporting such vulnerable groups to help us out with the capital to lend them for the long term, yet they'll still be able to recover back their funds, please.
Are you
So
business model?
Who is speaking?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear what you're saying.
For the project.
Is this Dan? It's hard to hear, so maybe. Okay, Ariana, do you want to ask your question?
Yeah, sorry. Are you also anticipating the NGOs will be the ones who will be identifying the vulnerable women? You know, the people that will be benefiting from your service?
So the people who want to be benefiting from our service are those who are running small types of businesses, such as running kiosks or vending in markets and the border riders. We'll be able to identify them because we'll have a platform whereby they can sign on, get the training necessary, and then we link them to the various NGOs, which will be helping us out to now fund these various persons.
So I have a quick question here. Can you just clarify, because there are currently some digital financing solutions that are in the market already, and this is like a data-driven, it's like creating a credit score utilizing data, right? Can you just clarify the kind of data points you want to collect? Because I think that's the innovation in this, so it would be good to get some clarity on.
So as you understand, most financial institutions are collecting data, for example, the credit. So rather than using the data we want to collect is, for example, farming practices of people in a particular area. Say what kind of business is this person involved in? What are their behaviors when they're moving on our platform? Are they actually actively learning the materials? So we want to collect physical types of data which can deviate, such as maybe the weather, the farming practices, the business practices of these persons, so that we can use this to actually train up models so that we can be able to better tell who is more likely to be able to repay back our loans and not.
Great, thank you. Up next, we have Team 10, Team Connect, and then coming up after that is Team 32, Matatu Edanfu. So Team Connect, you should be good to go.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Team Connect. Next slide, please. Our area of focus is Nigeria. It has 65% of its population belonging to the informal sector. Next slide, please. Meet our user, Fuluke, who is a working mom that supports a family of 5. She runs a food stall for passerbys and earns a living through this. Fuluke is unable to run her business during lockdown and does not have an inflow of income. Therefore, she cannot afford data that can keep her digitally connected. Next slide, please. What Fuluke needs is a solution that helps her regain her daily income. A data business bundle can help her during lockdown. This business bundle enables Fuluke to run her business. It is an all-in-one bundle that runs on sponsored data plans. This bundle enables Fuluke to digitize her business. Next slide. Fuluke has no money because of the lockdown and is unable to run her business to make more money. Feluke needs a digital channel to reach her customers and a delivery service that can transport her produce. Our business bundle comprises of 0-rated applications that helps Feluke run her business while complying to the COVID-19 health regulations. Next slide, please. All Feluke has to do is activate this bundle through a USSD code. Feluke now uses the application, which makes delivering her produce to her customers easy. It allows it to earn income through cashless transactions. It allows it to keep herself informed of relevant news, such as changes in the lockdown restrictions. Next slide, please. This solution has a positive impact on Feluke's daily life. It enables better economic productivity and increases her financial benefits. It also has a variety of social beneficial impacts. Next slide, please. The advantage of our solution is that it is still relevant in a post-COVID world. Feluke is now digitally equipped to upskill herself, expand her business, and increase her revenue. Next slide, please. So for this project, there are potential partners that can collaborate for the solution. The incentive for our potential partners would be a higher consumer, increased visibility, higher consumer base, and most importantly, an improved positive brand image. Next slide, please. As you can see, Feluke is now a happy citizen of Nigeria and is able to work without having to jeopardize her health or her communities. So we'd like to thank you and express our gratitude for this opportunity. We send you love from United States of America, Canada, India, Egypt, Nigeria, and South Africa. Thank you very much.
Can you tell me a little bit more about your go-to-market strategy? How is Feluke going to learn how to basically adopt mobile e-commerce when she's a traditional vendor?
That's a great question. So how this solution works is the sponsored data is sponsored by companies such as, for example, Amazon Web Services. Amazon Web Services will enable her to, they will slowly be onboarding Feluke as a potential future customer and training her on how to use Amazon Web Services so she can now digitize her business. This way, it is not a philanthropic initiative for AWS, but rather more of a marketing and customer development expense.
If there are no other questions, then we can move to the next group. That's Matatu, Donfu. Is it Paul or Andrew? Which one of you is presenting?
All right, Emily, can you give us the number for the last group? Feluke's group.
I-010.
010. Thank you.
Paul or Andrew, who's presenting?
Paul, can you hear me?
Yeah. All right.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Our group is talking about Matatu Edanfo, and that's basically safe and affordable mobility for everyone. Next slide. So the basic question is it safe for us to use the commercially owned private vehicles for transportation? Because in Nigeria, as a case study, the most common means of transportation is these commercial buses are shared by passengers, and they usually are for the informal sector as well as for the rural and local users. It is used in modern urban centers, but that can easily be shifted away. So our question is it going to be safe for users? Because we're on the verge of opening up the economy tomorrow. And everyone's question is, would I take it? or not. Next slide. We identified that the major challenge it has is that it's not monitored. The rules have been set that people should try to social distance themselves and use sanitizers in their hands, and vehicles should be washed and sanitized and disinfected. But nobody monitors this. And it's said that if you want to monitor it, if you see somebody doing something wrong or not sanitizing, report the person. So we looked at this and said, there's something we can do that can help. Next slide. We can have a platform that can connect users with vehicles that have been sanitized, vehicles that have been cleaned. Because if we take care of this group of persons that are the working class, we'll be able to protect the very vulnerable people, the essential workers, those that have to work, and able to continue the economy. Because people will surely work in this part of the world, in Nigeria, right in front of my house, and people still constructed a floor slab during this lockdown. So people will surely work. But if we can create the means to protect them and to create a safe economy, then we'll be able to have solutions that are working. Next slide. So we just created a sample of the idea where vehicle owners are connected with users, mainly so that you can have that vehicle sanitized. And when people get this, authorities, local authorities and the rest coming in, we'll be able to use this to monitor the vehicles as well as keep them updated from time to time. And lastly, post-COVID, this information can later be used in doing other things. For instance, it can be used to upgrade the downfall buses and used to train other vehicle owners. These things can be worked with infrastructures that are existing to keep it all going. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'd like to add Andrew onto the team.
He's unmuted.
I'm here.
Hi, this is Anita. Just a quick question here. So I'm trying to understand the validation method. So how do you know that a driver has actually sanitized their buses? So that's the first question. And then what's the sustainability plan around this app? How do you make money from this app to ensure that it's sustainable?
Okay, good evening, everybody. For the drivers, the app will be launched, and those who firstly we have road people like vehicle inspector agents who will be on the road to make sure that for every vehicle that comes up in the morning is already cleaned and sanitized, and they check all the equipments, the PPEs, the sanitizers, and every other thing necessary to make sure that for each movement, each round of movement they make, the vehicles are properly cleaned. And the app also monitors. These drivers will be launched on an app which will be developed by us, and the app will also be hosted by us. But we are going to work with the regulatory bodies in the government to make sure that it's live and it's active.
Can I add that for the sustainability of the idea and it all is that what we are trying to do is to connect downfall buses, which are basically a group of persons that have not really been registered. And if we can connect them and keep them together, we can inform them about health tips, we can inform them about ideas, and then these can change later on to other ideas. In terms of generating revenue from it, the proposal is to have it as a free app and basically connect the drivers with passengers. So if you get to a bus stop, you can actually tell if this vehicle has been sanitized because there's a tracker on it that says, oh, this vehicle was just sanitized 30 minutes ago. And you can choose, you can make a choice that this is the one I want to go into.
Okay, thank you. We actually, that's all the time we have for Q&A. So thank you very much, Team Connect.
Thank you.
So up next we have Team 37 and then Beyond Ready, Team 43, Usawa. Team 37, are you ready?
Yes, I might be a little dark because we just had a power cut. I apologize for that. Good evening, everyone. We have a solution for enabling work and supporting livelihoods in the informal sector. And we believe the best solution for this is to have a data-driven decision making, because all the ideas being pitched tonight can only work in a government with accurate knowledge of the members of the informal economy. There are rough numbers, for instance, by the World Bank that say that 82% of the employment in Kenya are in the informal sector, but there isn't actually a data about who are the demography of the informal sector. Plus, there is a limited resource in African countries, which we have to be careful in, in distributing, and we cannot afford to make error. So in that regard, our goal is to provide a methodology and build a coalition to enable data making on the impact of COVID-19 to the informal economy. We plan to do this into two parts. And the first is a phone-based interview, which will give a bottom-up approach, which will give a qualitative survey and gives an individual voice and gives the demography of the informal economy. On top of that, we will work on a top-down level to give a quantitative approach that will give an objective and sort of a projectile based on an airtime purchase. So our methodology is building a coalition between governments, communities, market research firms, and mobile network operators to work together so that the government is informed. In terms of the qualitative survey, the government will partner with market research teams such as Luca, and this will create immediate jobs to members of the informal economy because they can be employed as surveyors. And these surveyors will also crowdsource their own respondents, which means they can reach out to their families, friends, and members of the neighborhood. And the surveyors will get a job, but they can also spread information about the COVID and can potentially prevent their community from contracting it while doing the interview. In terms of the airtime usage, the government can collaborate with mobile networks providers in order to use the airtime as a proxy to investigate how the income has been affected by the COVID. Therefore, we want to emphasize that our idea is the government needs to be the coordinator and the facilitator, but also utilize the data that's found in order to have an accurate intervention. And next slide, please. Our motto is collaborating to understand, collaborating to support. Next slide, please. And next slide again. And we are a group of social thinkers. We have Hele from Rwanda, who is working with the non-profit in East Africa. We have KD, an American with a 10-year experience in the business. And there's also me with an Ethiopian studying a Bachelor's of Humanities at Kenyon and graduating next year. And there's Tiffany, an American who's also business management master's studying. Thank you. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Judges? I muted Bethany.
I'm sorry if I missed it. Could you just tell us a little bit more about the data that you're trying to collect?
We are trying to collect, yes, thank you. It's a good question. We are trying to collect a data that is powered by interview-based, phone-based interviews, and really go down to the community that's actually making the informal sector and fill that gap. Government doesn't actually know who are these members of the informal economy. So once we get that data, it means we can help the people rather fast and also rather accurately and not lose any sort of small funds or finds we have as a developing country.
I'll just add that it's data on their income. So we actually want to see how have people's incomes been impacted. Sort of the simple answer.
Thank you.
And are there plans for collecting data from those that don't have cell phones? And what does that look like?
So I think, I don't think you necessarily have to collect data from people without cell phones. I think you can extrapolate data from people that have it. So a lot of the data we want to use has to stay aggregated for data privacy reasons. So I think you can extrapolate and say, you know, most people have lost 10% of their income in the last week because of some new coronavirus response. And so you don't necessarily need data from every individual.
And so we're also hoping,
Farm level data is extremely expensive to collect, right? and it's also extremely difficult. So even if you're collecting this via mobile phone options, you still need a number, you need to employ people to be able to do this, etc. So where do we envision that this funding is coming from, especially given that a lot of countries are strained with finding solutions to the COVID-19 challenge?
Just one sentence, please.
Yeah. We are hoping to call upon an alliance between local market research firms, the government's potential itself, and also companies who are potentially using the people for their service to crowdfund this initiative and kind of attack this emergency.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now we have Team 43 Usawa and Team 27 24/7. Please be ready.
Right, hello. So imagine you're walking through an open market in Lagos. You need to buy some groceries, maybe a new shirt for it. There are hundreds of stalls, thousands of other people. And as you move through the market, you brush shoulders with hundreds of people. How many unavoidable interactions have you had on this trip? How many chances has COVID-19 had to propagate? We're Team Usawa, and we're working to minimize the spread of COVID-19 in informal markets. Next slide. Informal marketplaces are essential to the livelihoods of millions of African citizens, and as such, shutting them down is not a feasible option to stem the spread of COVID-19. Therefore, we need a solution that allows people to make a living and maintain social distancing. Next slide. Our solution is to protect the livelihoods by redesigning these markets for a COVID-19 world. And we will do this by decreasing customer density and increasing transaction safety. Next slide. To reduce infection risks in the markets, we propose a density feedback system. And depending on the local context, customer density will be estimated through drone pictures, cell phone density, USSD, and ticketing. That information is interpreted, then relayed so that a text message can be sent to the community, informing them whether or not the market is at a safe capacity and will drive people to shop at times of lower traffic. By leveraging the millions of mobile phones already in the public, we can reduce the number of unnecessary interactions. Next slide. The second aspect to a redesigned marketplace is improving transaction safety. By leveraging industry partners, we hope to help provide public health infrastructure, PPE for vendors and buyers, and help promote the safe handling of cash and goods. Next slide. We will first communicate with market and religious leaders who are deeply respected in their communities to get their input and support for engagement. Then we will work with local telecom companies to connect our density tracking system to self-broadcast. Finally, we will bring on industrial partners to invest in PPE and hand washing stations. Next slide. Some of the incentives for stakeholders can be vendors will be able to preserve their livelihood, and industry and telecom partners will receive promotion and deeper community ties. Next slide. As our approach is data-driven, we will allow for more social distancing while keeping diversity of goods and maintaining selling revenue. We'll implement a quality control feedback loop that collects data, analyzes its effectiveness, and modifies the intervention. And this will allow our approach to be driven by local communities. Next slide. Although the solution is directed towards informal markets, density redirection is applicable to other sectors. First, however, we hope to work with communities to redesign informal sectors that are essential to African economies and livelihoods. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, I might have missed this, but in collecting data on market density, how do we intend to do that?
So we thought about a few methods. We could do real time by using the drone, which there's a Jacobson formula which allows you to send the message in real time, or there's a ticketing method for systems that cannot support that kind of solution, or using a USSD method. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Knowing how dense the market actually are, I understand that we can reduce density, but is there any evidence that it's possible with the number of hours in the day to reduce density enough that we would get down to a safe social distancing density?
Wait, can you repeat your question?
Sure. Even if we, cut the number of people in half who are in the market at any time, it's still probably impossible to stand 6 feet away from everybody. So can we ever get it down to a safe level?
And I think that's where we think making the transaction safe come into place by like providing both the vendors and like the customers some level of PPE that can protect them in regards to how they handle the goods, but also the money that they do receive. So we don't think like just reducing the crowd is 100% foolproof if they're not like well equipped to protect themselves.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. We have 24/7, and please be ready, Community Smart Savings. Who from 24/7 is presenting? Okay. Go ahead.
Hello, judges. We're 24/7. Thank you for the opportunity to present. Next. How can we reconcile the fact that urban poor are at high risk of food insecurity, yet food is going to waste across cities of Africa? Next. Large food producers are dumping perfectly good food because due to COVID-19, demand for fresh food from large corporate clients has plummeted. At the same time, the poor in large African cities are losing work and income. Unlike rural residents, they don't have the access to land for subsistence farming, increasing their risk of food insecurity. Next. What's key to understand is that in most urban markets in Africa, two food supply chains exist in parallel, one for the rich and the other for the poor, and they rarely intersect. Formal value chains with large food producers serve middle and upper class consumers and export markets, while informal value chains serve the urban poor. Studies show that around 70% of low-income urban households are dependent on the informal markets and street vendors for food. Next. This leads us to ask, how can we shift excess produce that due to COVID-19 is dead weight for large producers in order to lower food prices for the urban poor who are struggling to afford food right now? We think the answer is to leverage existing networks of bulk collectors, the middlemen, who in normal times buy produce from smallholder farms, then transport and sell them in urban informal markets. These dalala, as they're called in Ethiopia, already have contacts and logistics to serve informal markets. However, they don't have the length and sufficient quantities to deal with large producers. So we propose setting up a demand pooling platform where orders from dalalas can be combined to purchase in bulk from large suppliers, providing concessional pricing on food. Next. One of our case studies was Pinduoduo, a demand pooling app in China. Adapting this model, we replace individual consumers with the dalala bulk collectors. Next. We envision a low bandwidth demand pooling app that will be accessed primarily through USSD. The dalala just need basic phones. Suppliers list food items at concessional prices for which the dalala place orders. Payments are kept in escrow and are released upon successful pickup by dalalas. Next. Our impact, we hope, is threefold. To increase food security by reducing food prices for urban poor, to help large producers cushion losses and retain employees, securing livelihoods, and to increase revenue for dalala, increasing employment opportunities in the informal market. Beyond this pandemic, the issue we're trying to address is really one of improving food supply chains in Africa. To better sustain the platform, we propose adding smallholder farmers and agricultural collectives as suppliers and adding urban neighborhood collectives and small vendors as purchasers to expand reach. The platform can also accommodate government or humanitarian actors to source cheap food for feeding programs. Next. Our perspectives were informed by our diverse team, as you can see on the screen, and we hope you see the potential in our solution. Thanks again for organizing this challenge.
Thank you for that. I have a question about logistics. How do you plan to handle logistics, especially if the dalalas are not in a centralized location?
The dalalas already have networks that they use in order to go to smallholder suppliers and then take this produce into informal markets. So they already have the logistical setup to be able to take on additional suppliers. So these additional suppliers we envision will be the formal markets. So previously where they would be going into rural areas to smallholder farmers, they will now be going to suppliers, large suppliers to pick up the order.
So research shows that one of the challenges we have in middlemen is that they take some of the margin from the farmers. So the tendency is for us to move away from this middlemen. So I'm just wondering why you decided to kind of empower the middlemen through this. And also if you looked at the option of cooperatives, for example, who are owned by the farmers and using that as alternatives.
Absolutely. So due to the emergency situation right now, we wanted to utilize the logistical setup that middlemen currently have. We found that they're the only ones that really have that setup already in place to be able to exist. So we're not seeing margins at this point as an evil per se, but a necessity to be able to facilitate the fast movement of foods from one segment of the market, the formal big supply, into the informal market where there's high need.
So if I could add on to that, the new problem now is that there's excess food at large food producers that's being wasted. And so the excess supply is being shifted to diversify the supply of the middlemen so that we can stabilize food prices for the informal markets.
Great, thank you very much. Up next we have, or please be ready, save the now. Up next we have community smart savings. Faluke?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Good afternoon, everyone. We are Team CSS. Next slide, please. We're looking at the effect of COVID-19 lockdown on local community, next slide, yes, on local community dwellers in the informal sector. How this has impeded access to food, hygiene material, and other basic amenities. If you see statistics in Nigeria, so now all over Africa, we have over 85.8% of workers in Africa are in the informal sector. So we're dealing with the very local community. Next slide, please. Next, please. So the big question is, how may we help to solve the stated problems? One, the CSS proposed solution has three elements. The first is the smart saving, utilizing SMS and USSD platform. The second element is food distribution, and the other is hygiene material. And of course, it's been divided into during COVID and at post-COVID. What we are going to basically be doing during COVID is source funding from funding agency. We already have partners. We're existing right here in Nigeria, and we have great partners for that. And of course, that funding will be diversified into food distribution and hygiene material. And of course, we would begin our implementation processes for the post-COVID project. For the post-COVID, we would complete the implementation of the project processes. And of course, we'll look at the effect of our impact in the local community. Thereby, we'll scale the project, having access the impact and the monitoring of the entire processes. What is our proposition next? Also, that has been divided into three. Next slide, please. It's been divided into three. Well, I'll go back to this. It's been divided into three value proposition now, please. It's been divided into three. We have secure economic livelihood. We also have the element that prevents the widespread of COVID-19. And the third is massive wealth creation. Please, the slide before this, please. We have two models. One is our CSS model, which incorporates the post-COVID and the COVID solution. Next, please. And the third, next slide, please. The next one, please. Next slide, please. This is our platform. And our persona, slide before this, please. Our persona is represented by Wendy, who is like a problem of the community we're looking at. Please, next slide, I've done this.
We're at time. So we'll have to move on to questions from judges.
So my question is, so it seems like you've already started developing on the savings side. So I'm trying to understand the reason behind now going into these two other areas, which seem like they are not necessarily interlinked and like they require a different set of skills. So just understanding the need to go into these two other areas, food distribution and safety material distribution.
They're not different elements at all. We are looking at COVID, problem during COVID and post-COVID. What we are able to do at this period is food distribution and hygiene material, which has been incorporated into our model. It is not a different model at all. It's one. We have just one model. But the phase one is to ensure that food is distributed in the community, and of course, hygiene material. The other one, the main channel is the CSS, which is community smart savings. That will happen at post-COVID.
Great, thank you very much. Just a reminder, I don't think I said this, but if everyone who is not presenting and not a judge, if you could turn your videos off for bandwidth issues, that would be great. We have Save the Now now, and up next we have Beyond COVID. Sorry, trying to unmute you, Gideon. Okay.
Gideon is for Beyond COVID.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Kareem?
So it's me for the Save the Now. Hello, everyone. Let's go. We can start. So hello, everyone. We are addressing the plight of the informal sector during a lockdown. We are Save the Now. And next slide, please. We'll be presenting you the problem. We'll show you the team, the market, and the solution through our slides. I think the slides are not updated, but okay. But first, meet Jane. Jane is actually a real person, right? She is Mariam's, our team member, a hairdresser. So she called Mariam after the lockdown measures happened in Nigeria, and because she's not been able to attend to any of her customers, and of course, one of them is Mariam, she asked Mariam to send her some money as a loan or as a donation. Mariam being so nice, she actually was able to send her some money to her bank account. This problem and the solution that was attended by Mariam.
Does someone, Kareem, you might want to turn your video off, but does someone else from the group, can you raise your hand and jump in?
See a slide moving.
Great. I think you're having connection issues, so maybe Mariam, can you take over?
Kareem, are you good to go? Or okay. Basically, maybe I'll continue since Kareem is having connection issues.
Yeah.
Can you go back, please?
Okay.
Okay. Go back, please. Go back.
Okay, we still are only giving 3 minutes, so.
Okay. Well, this is Jane, my hairdresser, who has financial issues because she hasn't been able to attend to customers. She called and complained about her situation, and I was able to help her with money. But then I thought about people like Jane and how if we were able to pay them for their services. Can you just go next, please? Go next. Basically, the solution is this. We decided that we can provide some form of liquidity for now. Go next. Basically, the solution is this. We leverage on existing platforms such as Jumia, who provide e-commerce solutions for people, and Jane is able to sign up as a vendor to advertise her product and services. Now the vendor the end user, who is somebody like me, will be able to go on the platform and actually request a service from Jane. But then this service will not be used immediately till after the situation has elapsed. But this money allows Jane to be able to sustain herself for the period. Now the voucher will be sent to me, and I'll be able to use it later on to redeem my services. Go next.
Finish this as your last slide.
Okay. Basically, the stages of the project is the e-commerce platform, and then the offline. Basically, we understand that there's a population in Nigeria that may not, like Jane, be able to connect to social media. So we created a bridge where community leaders who are able to track these people will be able to enroll for these people, so that they will be able to connect to the leaders via SMS or via SMS, and then the community leaders engage them on the platform. We're going to go into partnerships, as I've said earlier, with Jumia, Zando, and the rest of them.
Okay.
Just to make sure that, okay.
Judges.
2 quick questions. How do you build trust for people that their vouchers will be honored if this isn't a thing that people are already used to? And what happens if the business goes out of business anyway, and so the voucher never has a chance to be redeemed?
The idea is this: we're actually not going to entertain just any kind of business, because we're thinking about the end user as well. So we're going to look at businesses that can actually have a physical presence. That somebody that, let's say there's a circle of acquaintances, like Jane, who is my customer, will start with people like Jane. So people that are actually going to be able to vouch for Jane, or people that are actually going to be able to trace Jane, would be the first people on the platform. And then the community leaders will be able to locate people, the African setting, household by household, who is this person and how can we redeem our money, basically. So there's a protection. We thought about the end user as well. I hope that answers your question.
If Emily also can go 2 slides in, she can see appendix answering this question. 2 slides down after the thanks. Yeah. One more. No, one more up. Yeah, here.
So, and another question is, a lot of the platforms that already exist are goods-based platforms, right? So in Africa, I'm not even sure of any service-based platforms. So that might be a challenge. And I don't know if you guys know of any service-based platforms, and if you could name them, that would be helpful.
We actually do not know of any for now, and we thought it was an innovative idea, a new idea to bring to such platforms, to actually boost and allow them to actually reach a wider market, and for these people to have access to them. And then don't forget, please, we're not actually excluding products as well. It includes services. So Jane is just an example who is from the service angle of things.
Great, thank you very much. And thanks for jumping in, Mary.
COVID-19 setting, we're actually thinking about converting this platform into a normal e-commerce website with the bridges that we've already created through the community leadership. So if you're familiar with Nigeria, you know that we have a farming community that farm different things across the geopolitical zones. And then, so basically these people have a small outreach. We want to expand it for them so that their sustainability and their livelihoods are expanded outside COVID-19.
All right, thank you, Miriam and Kareem, and sorry about the connection issues, but thanks for being flexible there. Livelihood support, please be ready to come on next. For now, we have Beyond COVID with Gideon. Oops.
Okay, hi everyone. We are Team Beyond COVID. And here's the problem we want to solve. Next slide, please. Nigeria faces major food disparity, with nearly half of the population living in extreme poverty and vulnerable to sickness. Now, obtaining basic food consistently and stimulating the local supply chain key to fighting the deadly financial and health challenges posed by COVID-19. This has resulted in additional 7.1 million Nigerians that need food aid. Next slide, please. So, introducing Beyond COVID, a food stability program that provides daily meals and ensure end-to-end resource accountability. Next slide, please. So here is how it works. we get donations from our donors and run it through our logistics system from end-to-end tracking and verification. It is a tamper-proof, tamper-seal blockchain technology integrated with our web and mobile app, deliver food to the vulnerable citizen, and creating employment for farmers, transporters, cooks, etc., boosting the local economy and increasing their individual income. So for a more detailed beneficiary journey from discovery to fulfillment, on the next slide, please. So the problem is that the citizens, say Abubakar, who is hungry and have lost his livelihood, is in a situation to violate social distancing, etc. So discovers our program through our radio or TV adverts and takes action by sending an SMS using USSD to apply for the program. The citizen is verified through our process and matched through our distribution system for food pickup and delivery. So we at the back end manage this system from stakeholder engagement to delivery and follow-ups. So next slide. So we have very unique features, end-to-end transparency, donor matching, food waste reduction, a circular food chain, and daily healthy meals. Next slide. So based on disparity in areas, our phased implementation will start from Kano in northern Nigeria, which has a population of about 13 million. So next slide. So on the next slide, we will see the phased implementation, which we have done in 3 phases. Next slide, please. The slide will need about $250,000 from our donors for the first year to be able to deliver a healthy meal per day to our 200,000 vulnerable citizens. Next slide. So we have Natasha, Innocent,
you're at time, Gideon.
Ninja, Samantha, and Gideon for the great team. Thank you.
You.
For your attention.
Thank you for the presentation. Can you talk to us a bit more about the donations? How do you plan to get the donors to give you money? And what kind of donors do you have in mind that you think you can attract?
Yeah, thank you. That's a great question. So the donors we are looking at are actually from various sources. We are looking for different types of resources, which includes money, it includes food, and all that. So one, our donor could be the private sector, which we want to partner with. They can give money for which we can use to buy food. That's one. We also have big farmers that have produce that want to donate for this cause. We actually run with the private sector a survey, which we didn't show here, yesterday with the Nigerian private sector because some of the platforms we run, and asked them whether they are willing to give money. Some of them actually said that they were going to donate money for this cause and giving range of money. So we have a survey for about 2,000 people, businesses yesterday, and about 60 of them returned survey, and we had a good report for that. So that's how we intend to source from there, and cooperatives, food kitchens, and so on.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much. Now we have livelihood support, and coming up next is African blockchain system. Bill, I have unmuted you.
Okay. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes. We can hear you.
Am I good to go?
You can start.
Okay, our project is livelihood support, and that project is going to be run in Cameroon. We have a problem with a nation in partial lockdown and the absence of robust safety nets. The custodians of the informal sector in Cameroon, who contribute between 20 to 30% of the nation's GDP, are left stranded. Our goal is to support livelihoods in the informal sector amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. Our solution is going to run 2 programs: a cohort response program, which will provide additional paid human resource to support hurting entrepreneurs of small businesses affected by slow trading resulting in job cuts. The bailout response program will provide other businesses a bi-monthly bonus which is a percentage of the daily deposits made by the business at a partner bank. This will help keep the business's operations running till the end of every month and ensure that its workers stay employed. We have 4 objectives. 1, we will provide opportunity for 100 selected entrepreneurs of small businesses to safely maintain parts of commerce essential for their survival up to 6 months. We'll also secure the participation of 2 credible banks in the city, which will partner with our team to provide banking services to 50 selected entrepreneurs each for the duration of 6 months. We're also going to build the capacity of these 100 selected entrepreneurs in order to ensure that their businesses generate more profits within a 4 months run. Finally, we're going to ensure that the banks we're working with will commit to corporate social responsibility by promoting the businesses of their 100 new clients by offering a resilience grant amounting to 20% of a justifiable balance in each client's account at the end of the 6 months. We're going to be sourcing our entrepreneurs from 6 livelihoods categories: agriculture, repairs and maintenance workshops like mechanic garages, welding workshops, and carpentry workshops. Number 3, beauty and barbing salons, car wash businesses, restaurants, that's small eating houses and small eating sheds, and seamstress and tailoring workshops. The implementation of the project will be in 2 cycles within 12 months. Each cycle will...
Bill. We're at time. But the judges can read the rest on that slide. Any questions?
I'm trying to understand the innovation or the innovative part of this project. So I'll hand it over to Dan, but that was my quick question.
Yeah, my question was about building capacity. You said there would be some capacity building so that the businesses become profitable within 4 months. And I was wondering how you might do that.
We're going to have these entrepreneurs gain skills in basic, simple business plan development. We are also going to get them learn how to do basic banking. We also have to teach them how to do basic bookkeeping, and we think that if they learn and they get the value of basic bookkeeping, and then also get the basic skills for best practice, they will be able to push their businesses to more profitability.
Great, thank you. Now we have African blockchain system. Team 3, Soko Mashinani, please be ready after that.
Hello, am I audible?
Yep, we can hear you, Bhaskar.
Namaste, everyone. African countries have implemented complex lockdowns. Work have gone to the brink of starvation. Hence, governments are getting forced to remove lockdown in phases, but public activity can lead exponentially rising corona cases. Almost half of the global workforce is in immediate danger of losing their livelihoods due to COVID-19. 42% of people in sub-Saharan Africa live in extreme poverty. Most cities, inhabitants works in informal sector, not a state even for a day. Next, please. Hence, we present the African distributed system. Hello, we present the African distributed system. It is about development and implementation of new production and supply chain model to restart and encourage economic activities in the persistent lockdown situation. In short, stay home and start at home. Next. The system has 4 pillars. Next, the system has 4 pillars: manufacturer, distribution and delivery, workers, and digital platform. It enables small and medium enterprise manufacturer to disintegrate the production unit into multiple home-based small production units or blocks. These blocks will produce in dispersed fashion like vertical integration production, but from home and in an isolated manner. The manufacturer will hire workers in the respective area and then divide the production task among them. Robust distribution and delivery will form the backbone of the system. It will distribute raw material and channelize the partially built product from one to another block and get the final product in the market. Next, a digital platform will connect and manage manufacturer, distribution and delivery channel and work. Manufacturers can find and get laborers on the digital platform just like the LinkedIn. So this model can enable markets to start demand getting fulfilled as the manufacturer can produce, worker can work even with the lockdown and other constraints in place. Our solution can easily enable people to work and support the livelihood essential for the survival. The curve will remain flattened as most people will be, and communication won't happen. Next, the model is quickly implementable on the production. Is quickly implementable on the production of essentials in need due to COVID lockdown and COVID-19, like dried fruit, bread, sanitary napkin, toilet paper, mask, sanitizer. The textile sector can create lots of jobs through this model. Now you are done. So COVID-19 under control as people will work at home, the economy would get started. Demand met as the production of essential item can go on. Laborers will work and support livelihood. Thank you, everyone. Queries, please. Any judges?
Yeah, my question is, how is this different from the at-home piecework model that's really popular in emerging markets? And if it's not, how do you deal with the fact that that economic system often has unsafe working conditions and low wages?
Yeah, so in those regions where there is uncertainty, so the local producer whose economy is shut down, whose production is stopped, will contact local agent who can provide laborers from the market, and they both will get registered on our system. And our system will form a channel between the manufacturer and those laborers who will be on the system. The distribution, the delivery mechanism will take place between the manufacturers, raw material to the those who will be. Sorry, can have another question, please?
We are at time, so we will have to move on to the next group, but thank you very much. Just a quick time check. I know it's approaching 2, but we still have 5 teams left, so we'll try to move through them quickly. Thanks for your patience. FNRP, please be ready after Soko Mashinani. Who is presenting? Sebi, is it you? Sebi, are you ready?
Yep, I'm ready.
Okay.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Meet Juma, a 52-year-old man from Kibra, Nairobi, a husband and a father, and has a mobile phone and uses M-Pesa in his wholesale business. Next slide. Due to COVID-19, limited movement has seen a reduction in customer flow in his shop, hence a significant drop in sales and cash flows. He's no longer able to afford his family a decent lifestyle, nor meet his financial obligations. Juma is not alone. There are over 3.5 million businesses in the low-income areas in Kenya affected. This effect trickles down to the whole ecosystem and affects the quality of life and are likely to cause mental health issues and socio-economic issues such as crime. Key question is, how might we help the vulnerable low-income ecosystems to conduct their businesses during this pandemic and beyond? Next, please. We are Soko Mashinani, a virtual marketplace which intends to expand the market potential for local micro businesses in these ecosystems. Our platform is easily accessed using USSD, SMS, social media, and WhatsApp. Next, please. Our solution uses machine learning capabilities to process SMS inquiries that are sent on plain text. We use our operational efficiencies, targeting 15 to 60 minutes delivery in the localities. We aim to maintain the highest standards of hygiene and reduce human contact with the products and buyers during procurement and delivery, and we enable electronic payment. Next, please. While there are other players in Kenyan market, none of them plays in this informal sector. Next, please. We believe that with our solution, we will create opportunities for Juma and wholesale shop owners, Wafula, the Boda Boda rider, or this, the errand boy, and Nyambura Mudhoni, access her favorite second-hand clothes from Mutindo Market. Next, please. Next, please. Next, please. Next, please. Next, please. Next, please. Our business model is basically for, we targeting to, our TAM shows that we have a potential of $40 million. Our SAM, our SAM is $1 billion Kenya shillings, which is $10 million. And we intend to make our monies through transaction fees. We charge commissions for the businesses and also subscription fees for low premium, for premium customers who might come in. And we also do advertisement on the platform. Next, please. Our team is led by our CEO, Anne Mwangi, our CTO, Edward, and myself, Sebi. Next, please. Yes, thank you.
Great, thank you.
Two quick questions. So the first one is, you did mention your competition, right? So you have Jumia, you have Gigi, and they actually work with small and medium enterprises also. So what is your main differentiation or USP is my first question. And then I think the problem with a lot of online market solutions is the distribution aspect. So have you thought about how you will solve that distribution link and what you intend to do for that?
I can take that. We intend to leverage on the ecosystem within the slum areas. So in terms of the distribution, we are going to use people from the same locality, from the riders, so at the borders, the local shops that are within that region. So that way we are going to leverage on the whole ecosystem, and everybody will have a positive impact in terms of their livelihood. Yeah, that's all.
Great, thank you very much. Now we have FNRP, Relief Link, please be ready next. Who from FNRP is presenting? Okay, we're going to move on to the next group, Relief Link. Can you raise your hand if you're presenting? Okay, great, go ahead.
Yeah, what's the number for this group before they start? I missed that.
28. And Azuzu, please be ready next.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, so this is Relief Link. Rural has been an inhabitant of Guguletu Township. When COVID-19 hit, he had to close down his business and stay home to avoid exposing himself and loved ones to COVID-19. However, his family still depends on him for food and basic necessities. Next slide, please. Next slide. Okay, so reduced income and purchasing power means the poor are vulnerable to food insecurity. Informal businesses that supply the informal sector are running out of supplies, thus increasing the cost of goods, thus affecting the liquidity of these businesses. Next slide. How Relief Link comes in is it manages the flow of funds, supplies, and information without disturbing the existing supply chains. For the flow of funds, pooled funds from donors will pass through Relief Link directly to the local businesses. Next slide, please. Thus allowing the purchase directly from pre-qualified suppliers. This this will generate a supply of goods that flow back to local businesses that can be distributed to people in need within their communities. People in need will need to be identified through close partnerships with community-based organizations in these areas. Individuals who are identified as in need will receive a voucher via USSD that can be redeemed at their local shops at no cost to them. Once the voucher is redeemed, Relief Link receives information showing funds were appropriately used. The typical humanitarian aid organization meets immediate needs of hunger, but at the expense of the local neighborhood businesses. Our solution meets the immediate needs, but maintains the integrity of local trade systems. Any questions, please? Any questions?
This is Dan. I'm not exactly sure what the innovation here is. Is it a way of validating the person or validating the use, a way of redistributing the aid income? What?
No, where we come in is we're trying to ensure that the distribution of donor funding to existing, to this communities in distress is as efficient as possible. So we take the funding that we pull together and we direct it to the local informal traders, buy the goods from them, and then they distribute this goods to the households in need, rather than these aid organizations directly coming in with free items from other sources. Thus, we make sure that the existing supply chain is maintained and people are fed and goods remain available and employment is protected to keep local operators in business. Thank you.
Thank you. Zuzu, you're unmuted, Abdul.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Abdulaziz, and I'm here with Pierre. We're happy to present to you Esusu, a digital wallet solution that provides access to digital finance and affordable healthcare. Next slide. Meet Auntie Fumi, my sister. She is 40 years old. She lives in a small rural village in Nigeria. She does not have a bank account and a smartphone. Every day, she and a group of friends do their savings informally in cash, also known as Esusu. Most often, she is exposed with data losses and fraud due to the inefficient and manual process. Painfully, Auntie Fumi does not have access to affordable healthcare in her community. Next slide. Auntie Fumi is not alone in this problem, as she is among the 7 million unbanked Nigerians that faces this problem. In the current coronavirus pandemic, cash handling has also become a major concern. With 90% of transactions done in cash, it poses risk of transmitting the virus from paper money handled by an infected person. Sadly, we have only 2.1% of the unbanked population that have access to affordable micro healthcare insurance in Nigeria. Next slide. So how do we give hope to Auntie Fumi? We introduce to you Esusu, a digital wallet facilitating cashless payments, digital saving, and access to affordable healthcare insurance. In less than 30 seconds, Auntie Fumi can be digitally enabled to transact. Dialing a USSD code on her feature phone, she enters her personal information to complete the registration. She then gets instant virtual bank account linked with her wallet. She is able to deposit her cash to save into her Esusu wallet at any nearby agent or through a voucher. She receives instant SMS notification on every transaction. Through her Esusu wallet, she is able to subscribe to an affordable monthly micro health insurance plan through our partner, Follow Doctor, a telemedicine and HMO digital platform that provides affordable medical consultation, nurses, testing, and drugs to Africans. And Fumi is able to visit any nearby pharmacy or clinic for health consultation and drugs. Interestingly, Auntie Fumi also has access to prepaid card which she can use to shop offline or online. Next slide. Our partnership with Olo Doctor is promising a sustainable and scalable business model to deliver digital finance and access to affordable healthcare to the last mile. Next slide. Our impact is to advance digital finance, sustainable finance, and good healthcare delivery in response to combat the coronavirus pandemic, supporting the sustainable development goals, enhancing inclusive impact to the vulnerable informal sector in Nigeria. Next slide. We've been able to develop a proof of concept, which you can also view online in the USSD code, and it's available to work with several mobile network operators and healthcare insurance delivery system available in several African countries. Next slide.
Great, you're at time. So we'll move on to judges' questions.
So I have a quick question here. So in Africa, there's usually low demand for insurance services because people just are not even in a place where they can save. And then thinking through insurance is like the next step, which a lot of people are not thinking about. So how do you intend getting people to engage to buy this insurance?
Yeah, thank you very much. Because people are used to informal savings schemes such as Esusu, they save regularly to the tune of 500 naira per day in Nigerian currency, and it's easy for them to factor the cost and amount of what they save regularly for a monthly health insurance scheme. It gives them access to affordable health care, to connect with any nearby pharmacy or clinic, and also get consultation and free medical drugs. So it's very, very easy to factor it into the Esusu scheme, which we are already used to.
I have a question about the supply side, the health services. How would we ensure that the access would be there in the case of a claim or a usage?
Yeah, because we have several healthcare insurance providers, we have the distribution networks, and you have different agents that are able to connect. It's easy for us to actually work with Olo Doctor, which we have actually partnered, and we feel this will actually enhance the delivery through the different network of pharmacies, clinics, whether offline and online, to the likes of Auntie Fumi.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. We just have 2 teams left. Formula, you are up. Foodie, please be ready.
Right then, good evening. Food distribution in Africa. Next slide. What we've noticed is our existing fresh food supply chains are failing. With lockdowns on our open air markets, it's becoming increasingly difficult for farmers to sell the food that they have, like Joe, and it's also difficult for online cook from home chefs like Amira to access produce through open air markets. So what's currently happening is the amount of money that is being lost of potential revenue when open air markets within the 5 largest economies in Africa. Any day that these markets within these countries are not able to operate, we're losing $100 million in potential revenue daily. Next slide, please. What Formula is doing is creating MOUs with local and municipal authorities to leverage our existing supply chain to continue to ensure food security. So what currently happens with a Formula chain is Joe is still able to sell his produce, and Amira is also able to access the food that she needs by leveraging on our existing distribution spaces, which are location specific. It means that the food that Amira is able to get is affordable and it comes to her in a timely manner, while Joe is also able to get more money for the food because there are less actors on the chain. Next slide, please. So the way the product works is we currently use a USSD platform which Amira will dial, and it will come directly to our dashboard. And once we get this notification, we are able to fulfill it based on the closest distribution point to where Amira is. Next slide, please. The benefit is that it cuts down the spread of COVID-19 because there's less interaction, there's less need for people to go to open air markets where they would have normally met other people, which will increase the risk of them contacting COVID-19. We're also able to collect useful data for building strategies for government. So we're looking at data like which food Amira is buying and how much is he spending. This will make it possible for government to say that they are providing subsidies for farmers to continue to plant these foods. There's also improved farmer morale because as of now, a lot of the morale of farmers has dropped significantly, considering the fact that the chains which they normally rely on are no longer functional. And we don't buy from farmers, we onboard farmers, which means every farmer that we onboard, we offtake the whole produce that he has every season. Next slide, please. We charge 20% markups on every produce sold through Formula, and then there's a 2% discount for every time customers subscribe to our monthly plans. Next slide, please. Formula gives transparent pricing, so we post out our prices weekly, which gives buyers the ability to be able to plan ahead of time for their purchases. We also give demand-driven flexibility such that anytime Amira wants to buy her produce, she doesn't need to leave where she is. She can focus on her business and get access to the produce that she wants. And our mini distribution cuts fulfillment time to 30 minutes.
All right, time.
All right.
Judges, questions?
Onboarding farmers, is there criteria for farmers in their ability to be able to interact?
Sorry, I didn't get the question.
In onboarding farmers, smallholder farmers onto the platform, is there some sort of criteria in terms of hectares planted or metric tons of whatever the commodity produced is?
Yeah, so what we try to know is the crop which these farmers are dealing in, the periods which they plant them, and where the farmers are located, because it affects the costs at which we acquire these goods and then the amount at which we can sell them. Did I answer your question, please?
Yeah, and then if no one has a question, how are you paying the producers?
So what we do is, okay, so normally let's say we were to buy a sack of potatoes from a farmer. If there were multiple players on the chain, the farmer will be forced to sell it at a lower price because he has less bargaining power. But within the farmer supply chain, there are less actors. So what we can do is to negotiate a higher price for the farmer. So we're telling the farmer that we're giving you 20% more. Formula has already been in existence, so this is what we've already been doing. We give them 20% more, and then we're able to sell the produce less for businesses because we really don't have a lot of actors on our chain.
And how are you handling logistics?
So we work with partners, especially for the long haul from the farm. And when it comes to the last mile distribution, what we noticed is the cost of logistics for a standard operator, say maybe Bolt or Sandy, is too expensive also. We're partnering with local bikemen, which significantly drops the amount of money that we pay for our last mile logistics by 4 times the original amount.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right, then, thank you.
Thanks. Last but not least, we have Foodie. Ahmed, you're unmuted.
Here we are. Yeah, thanks so much. Next, please. Next slide. Hi, my name is Ahmed, and I'm from Sudan. I'm presenting Foodie. Foodie is a marketplace providing homemade organic food to frontline and essential workers during the COVID-19. And to take our case here, so the ILO estimate that 66% of the total employment in sub-Saharan Africa is an informal sector. Next slide. So, yeah, so we find here there's a lot of people working on daily workers who process food on the street, selling them. This on the normal days. But today with the COVID-19 shutdown, they lost their income, they lost their ability to do direct selling. So we take a case of Mariam, that she processed food on the street and she sell it on the normal days. Today she lost her income because she's not able to sell that into the street. Next slide. The problem she's facing is that she's not able to sell, unable to reach new markets, not able to work remotely, mostly not access to internet and all that stuff, as well as not organized orders and logistic abilities. Next slide. What we are trying to accomplish is to provide a solution and a platform that would bridge the gap of the offline and online gap by using technology as well as offline channel like SMSs and USSDs, and to be able to connect with two sides, the frontline workers who want to order food and those daily workers that we will tell them to work from home and process and make the food. And by diversifying income revenues for them and also optimizing and handling order processing. Next slide. This is our MVP. We built a product of a shop that's already now live where people able to book and get the orders online. Next slide. And because we know the logistic is the biggest thing, what we will try to do is we'll connect those daily workers that will join with us as we communicate with them with the call center SMSs. We'll communicate with them and I will also optimize the route and the data and optimize and process the data. Next slide. We are handling all this through a management system that will allow us to optimize routes and optimize delivery. So this is another MVP we are having as well about the technology that will be delivered to the drivers so that able to easily pick up and drop off the location from the daily workers' homes to the customers' homes. With that, we'll be able to reduce fuel, we'll be able to map the orders. Next slide. Next slide as well. Our revenue going to come 80% from the orders and also advertisement and also donor support. Next slide. Our team is coming from a very diverse background in technology, data science specialists, working in development and also environmental health and as well as development sector in general. Thank you so much. I'm very open to questions.
When you refer to the outputs as MVPs, does that mean that the MVP has been created?
No, we try to facilitate the channel. So currently we have the technology that allow you to order using online and also offline channels. And then the first case will be able to put the service in. It could be in Sudan at the moment where we be able to connect with the daily workers working in home and also processing the channel and delivering for them the food.
And on the route optimization?
The route optimization the technology you also put, which is connect our drivers that will deliver this food. So when you place your order, let's say either in call center or the app, you will get all the location, and then the driver will be able to know from where he needs to pick up the order or the food and where he needs to drop off that into the customer.
Yeah, so is this something that is already created? So you're referring to it as an MVP. So I'm just asking if the MVP is there.
Yeah, it is there. These are the live slides of the demo. Yeah.
How do you ensure food quality and food safety from street vendors?
Yeah, we have in our team some work in environment health. We are going to set them with the specific tools and measures, like provide the hot food. Our drivers need to only drop off the packages in front of homes, no touching, nothing like that. We'll also try to specify specific type of food that they need to use that you can reheat in home, and with that will decrease the possibility of the virus spreading if anyone is
not just
sorry.
Yeah,
sorry.
not just the virus, but in general, you know, food safety.
Yeah, we will give them a training. We'll give them a training when we onboard them, as well as taking chefs in the future. Also, after the virus, we'll be able to have central kitchens, so we were able to ensure all the measurements needed.
Great, thank you very much. That was the last team. So thank you all, and thank you for your patience for staying a little bit longer. Now, I'm going to stop sharing. So now we have a break. We'll do judge deliberations, and please see your Slack channels for the updates of where to go next. Thank you very much.